What's up guys, I'm Devin from Dr. Garage. Today I'm going to be talking about clutches for the Blacktop beams out of a Toyota Altezza. One of the things that happens when you order a used engine and transmission from Japan, it seems like a lot of them have a toasted clutch, especially if it's a factory clutch. The beams came stock with a dual mass flywheel, which is super heavy. Now they use this in the beams as well as other vehicles like BMWs and stuff because it makes a smoother drivability. Rev up and rev down is easier, shifting is easier, just makes things a lot easier to drive. However, a dual mass flywheel is really heavy. So one of the first things that people do when they swap in a beams is they get rid of that dual mass flywheel, they get a lightweight flywheel, and they get a clutch. So behind me on my table, I've got 3 different clutches that I'm going to talk about with 2 different flywheels, and we're going to talk about each of these. One of them is something I went down to the auto parts store and picked up. Another one is something I had to order from Europe when I first got my Blacktop in my car. It came with an Exedy OEM replacement clutch as well as a cheap eBay lightweight flywheel. And then the third option is I have this OS Gaikin super single clutch that I just picked up because I'm supercharged. I needed something that's going to hold a little bit more power. I'll also cover a couple other clutches that people like to use, and I'll talk about each of those. So we'll start with that. The clutch that most people end up using is from ORC, the 309D. It's a lightweight super single clutch disc. Pretty much it's good for anything under 300 horsepower. When you get more than 300 horsepower, the clutch doesn't seem to hold up very well. So all you stock beams guys out there, ORC 309D is pretty much your best bang for your buck. You can get it from places like Right Hand Drive Japan, rhdjapan.com for like, I don't know, like 850 bucks or something plus shipping. So that comes with a lightweight flywheel, it comes with a really great clutch. The pedal feel is actually super light because they changed the leverage on the clutch finger springs, and so it gives it a lighter clutch feel, which is easier on your hydraulics and easier on your leg. It's a really great feeling clutch. I've never used one because when I did mine, I went cheap on the clutch. Instead of doing something like that, I went with the Exedy OEM replacement with a really cheap, crappy flywheel. So let's go over and talk about that one real quick. All right, this is the Exedy OEM replacement clutch cover. You can see, let's see if you can see that right there. Part number is TYC 607, made in Japan. Probably need to clean it off, but this is after 4 years? Hang on, 1, 2, yeah, about 3.5 years of abuse. That really looks all right. I don't do a whole lot of clutch kicking, so this looks pretty good. There isn't a whole lot of hot spotting or anything. Here is the Exedy OEM replacement clutch disc. Part number is, that's TYD134U. And this has tons of life on it. So 3 years of abuse, that's pretty good. That's stock power. Okay. This here is this eBay lightweight flywheel. So it may look okay, doesn't look like anything special, but the problems I had with it is not necessarily this bit here. It actually held up pretty good to, 3 years of drift abuse, but this, the pilot bearing, oh, of course it's going to stay in there now, but it actually doesn't fit in real tight. So when I first got it, it would just like slip in and out and didn't hold in. And when I pulled the transmission out, this actually fell out. So this is machined a little bit too large. Another thing, I'm gonna go back over to the clutch disc, or the clutch cover. The bolt holes didn't exactly line up. You can see this one. Well, maybe you can see it. So you can see this hole is like not perfectly round. I actually had to Dremel it out a little bit so that way it would actually, the bolt would actually go in. And I also had to do the same thing with this one a little bit. The bolt holes are not drilled perfect in the flywheel. They're not in the right location. They're off just a little bit. So you have to Dremel these holes out. So that's not good. That's the problem with the eBay flywheel. Now I'm going to talk about the replacement clutch you can get from the auto parts store. So This I went down to O'Reilly and I picked up. This is the part number, KF628-02. To get this clutch, what I ended up doing is I went to the right-hand drive Japan catalog. I pulled up the OEM clutch replacement, or the Toda clutch replacement for an Altezza, and then I grabbed the part numbers from that and I went to the Exedy catalog and I cross-referenced, I pulled up what those part numbers cross-reference over to. And what I found is this.
Okay, so here I am on the right-hand drive Japan website. I like to use this because a lot of the parts that are available for the beams are only for the Altezza application, which is a Japanese market only application. So it's hard to find things in English. But right-hand drive Japan, the website can be in English. You can select an application, you can pull up parts, you can change your currency and all that. So I usually use this to find stuff, and then I go through whatever resources I have to order parts. So here you can see I've got the Altezza selected, I've got the clutch kit selected, and here are all the different clutch kits you can get for the Blacktop beams Altezza. So a bunch of stuff from ORC. This is the typical clutch that a lot of people end up getting. The Dynasty guys really like this, and so does pretty much everybody else I talked to. I think one person actually ended up somehow breaking the rivets on this, but I think that just comes from really aggressive driving. This is a clutch I ordered, the OS Geiken Super Single, with the aluminum cover. Okay, so finding a clutch that's going to fit that is readily available. So first thing I do is I went to the Exedy Single Sports Ultra Fiber Clutch Kit. Went down here. Oh, here we go. We got part numbers. So in the specifications, the clutch disc part number is TD02H. So Exedy has a website that has an OEM replacement clutch kit lookup tool. So you can look by vehicle or by part number. So I've already got the part number put in. Here is the OEM replacement clutch. Looks like there's also TD02T. That's a lot more expensive. So that's a stage 2. That's a lot more aggressive. All right, but here is the application chart. So 85 to 95 4Runner with a 22RE. 79 to 81 Celica Supra, both of the 4M or the 5M. 88 to 89 MR2 supercharged. So this is kind of cool. The 4AG ZE clutch disc will work with the Blacktop beams. So that's kind of neat. And then we've got the 81 to 95 Toyota pickup with the 22RE. So there we go. Here is our application chart for the clutch disc. So now we're going to go back over. I'm going to grab the clutch cover part number TC06T. TC06T. All right, here is the clutch cover replacement cross-reference chart. All the same vehicles except for the MR2. So there we go. These clutches are going to be pretty readily available. There's a bunch of pickups and 4Runners on the road in the US, so you should be able to get a clutch kit pretty easily. One other thing that I was researching in here was flywheels. Down here at the bottom, this is the Toda Racing Ultra Lightweight Chromoly Flywheel Kit Sports Disc, whatever. And when you look at the part number from Toda, you can see it's got a 3SG in the part number. This is a specific flywheel for the Altezza. That's the one thing that kind of sucks, is although you can get clutch discs and covers and clutch kits really easily, the flywheel itself is proprietary to the Altezza. I haven't found anything else that crosses over yet. That's not to say there isn't anything, but the beams of the J160, it looks like it's pretty much, very specific for that.
So then, after I figured out what those applications were, I went over to the O'Reilly Auto Parts website, and then I pulled up what those, those same vehicles are and grabbed a clutch from that. So that's what this one is. A Power Torque KF628-02. I verified that this clutch is the exact same size as the Exedy OEM replacement. The clutch alignment tool fits in here, and it fits in here. So use the same input shaft to make sure that's going to be the right size. And then what I did was I grab the clutch cover, grab the cheek flywheel, oops, set it on there, and made sure that it all aligned. And it does. It lines up. This clutch for this old truck works. 100% without a doubt. It also comes with your throwout bearing. I've heard the throwout bearing works. It looks pretty similar to the stock one. I'd say that it probably is going to work. The pilot bearing, that one is not going to work. You'll have to order one specifically for the beams. But yeah, that was $112. That's awesome. Clutch diameter 8 7/8. The clutch material is 1.5 inches. On the stock one, we've got 8 7/8, 1.5 inches. Exactly the same. Okay, now the OS Geiken clutch. So like I said, I was looking for something that's gonna be good for a little bit of a power increase. I needed something that's gonna be able to hold at least 300 wheel horsepower, if not more. And I know that horsepower and torque ratings are a little for clutch ratings, because you also gotta think about the amount of grip and the vehicle weight and all that stuff. Anyway, I went off based off of some reviews from people from the Dynasty Drift team. My favorite drifters, by the way. One of them, Matt Panic, he hooked me up with some flywheel bolts. Thanks, dude. Because the OS Geiken flywheel doesn't use the standard OEM flywheel bolts. Here is the stock beams flywheel bolt, and here is the one from the for the OS Geiken. It's actually an RB flywheel bolt. You can see it's significantly shorter, probably because the flywheel's thicker. So, let's take this apart and take a look at it. Inside of the OS Geiken Super Single, this is your pressure plate. This is what the clutch is going to clamp against. Instead of it being a part of the clutch cover, it's separate. Clutch cover is just the springs. This is the clutch disc. So this is the clutch disc itself. You can see it's got a metallic material to it. That's going to be a lot more aggressive. When you go to an upgraded clutch, there's a couple of different ways that they upgrade the power rating. One of them is going to a stickier friction material, so it'll hold more. Another one is actually changing the amount of friction material, and another thing is changing the clamping force. So this probably has a little bit of an upgraded clamping force, and it also has this really fancy clutch material that's going to hold a lot more power. You can see that this flywheel is actually thinner right here when compared to the stock one. The stock one is a lot thicker there, so that's why we go to these shorter flywheel bolts. That should get us a little bit more of a weight reduction. The ORC clutch is going to be very similar in assembly as the OS Geiken. It comes with a throwout bearing, and it comes with flywheel bolts, comes with all the hardware you need. So that's what's really nice about the ORC one. But once again, I needed something that was rated for a little bit more power. Oh, also, the OS Geiken one does come with a throwout bearing. So, woohoo! You just need a pilot bearing and flywheel bolts. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you got questions about beam swap, check out my other videos. And if I don't have something covered, please comment and let me know. Follow along on Facebook and Instagram, Dr. Garage, and pretty much all the social medias. Thanks for watching, guys.